Welcome to the Unafraid Show. Texas, you gotta stop being sensitive about horns down. Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes have turned into the evil empire, and we have college football analyst Greg McElroy in the building, and we're getting you ready for your Vegas trip to the Super Bowl with Vegas Starfish and Brock Purdy. Is it David versus Goliath in the Super Bowl? Make sure that you guys like, subscribe, get notifications, and most of all, share so we can keep bringing you great content. Let's go. I want to talk about something that's really bothering me. Texas, you have to let go of this whole horns down thing. You are supposed to be mighty Tecovas boot, Stetson hat wearing, gun toting tough guys, but this level of soft makes me think that y'all might actually die in a pillow fight. And yes, I'm aware of the irony that I'm bothered by the fact that you're bothered. And yes, I'm aware that it's not all Texas fans, but it's enough of y'all. And if you have kids or you've ever worked around kids, been a kid yourself, you know the entire motivation for people doing something that pisses you off is to get a reaction out of you. And as a dad, I know when my kids are in the backseat doing that thing where one kid is holding their finger 1 inch from the other kid's face that I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you. Sometimes it's easier for me in the moment to yell at the kid to stop than it is to teach the other one to be unbothered. But you know what's gonna happen the next time dad's not around? I'm not touching you. And it's gonna keep on. And that's all the horns down thing is. Nobody is committing a crime. Nobody's getting hurt. It's a test of will to see if a hand symbol is gonna make you cry. If it works, they win. And buddy, they are winning big. Because last week, BYU asked a group of students wearing a shirt that spelled horns down to take them off. What? Now, to be fair to Texas, it was the decision by BYU to ask the students to take the shirts off because they didn't want a negative message to be associated with their student body. Bruh, it's a basketball game. You're supposed to be rowdy. Do we really think that BYU considers this a negative message if Texas fans and administrators hadn't spent years getting sadness tummy aches every time they see two fingers pointing down? Side note to Texas fans, you know cows have to lower their head to eat, right? So horns go down already. And when you're driving past a pasture and you see a longhorn bent over eating grass, don't panic. I am actually thrilled that the SEC, where Texas is going next year, isn't going to consider the horns down hand symbol unsportsmanlike. Because one of the biggest embarrassments in college football was the Big 12 literally kowtowing to Texas by making horns down a penalty. They tried to explain it away as a sportsmanship issue, but like me in the front seat trying to get my kids to stop bickering, they thought it was easier to punish the offender rather than explain to the offended that they're giving everybody else power over them. The Big 12 only made it worse because those aren't kids, they're football fans. You might get 1 or 2 less horns down symbols on the field, but in the stands, that's all I've seen for 4 straight years. And when you take it a step further and try to ban somebody from singing the national anthem because they were caught giving horns down in a photo, you've officially gone way too far. Do you think I liked it when Brandon Ayuk drop kicked the O after knocking Oregon out of the college football playoff contention in 2019? No, but the way you keep that from happening is not giving up the touchdown in the first place. And as a dad, I hate to take aggressor's side in this, but Texas fans, listen up and listen good. Come on in. They're not touching you. They're not touching you. They're not touching you. Quit being soft and let that sink in. Today's Unafraid Show interview is with 2009 national champion and college football star Greg McElroy. You can find him on Always College Football, on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. But when you look at his Twitter bio, man says dad, husband, Alabama alum. So, Greg, thanks for coming on the show.
No, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, anyone that has kids knows that's the first job. Like 100%. Like,
yep. Yeah. And so you travel all over the place for college football. How do you keep that order together when you're on the road so much?
Well, it's hard, but what's funny is, and it's a little bit like when we were playing, like when the season ends. And
Yeah.
my kids never get mad that I have to leave. Like they are bummed for sure from time to time. But man, when I'm home, I'm home.
Yeah.
Like that's when I'm home, I'm home. We're focused on that. We're out in the front yard throwing the ball around, hitting off a tee, whatever it is, whatever he wants to do. But man, it is tricky on the road, especially during the football season, because it can be all consuming if you're trying to stay up on all things college football.
Now, the next thing in your bio is Alabama alum. So the question is, Greg, why do you, according to Alabama fans, why do you hate Alabama so much?
Well, it's funny because I love my school. I mean, I know you feel the same way about Oregon. Like, you cannot take the 5 years away from me. Like that was the most impressionable, the best experience I had in my life. Like my wife, I met in school. My kids, we still have season tickets. They go to every game. And I think what's funny is I might say I say 100 things about Alabama, 98% might be really, really positive because
Hmm.
98% of what they do is incredible. Like they've won 10 games a year for 16 straight years. Like you can't really
Yeah.
nitpick that at all. I mean, the results speak for themselves, but I think people just hang on the 2% of maybe constructive criticism, and people are going to believe what they want to believe, man. Like that's just, people don't like me. Some people with Alabama don't like me, and that's okay.
Okay,
That's
so why?
that's fine.
So how confusing or mind blowing is it for you when you're sitting here watching Alabama people say, "Why do you hate us so much?" And then you have so much of the American public saying, "Why are you caping for Alabama to be above Texas and above Oregon and in the
Right.
college football playoff?"
I know I mean, it's a matter of perspective, right? And I think that's what's beautiful about college football is like we love to hate more than we love to love.
The day that you heard that Coach Saban that he was retiring, where were you and what was that emotion like?
I had heard that there was, some buzz from people that he trusts that hey, this is probably going to be it. That was really throughout the regular season, maybe a little bit more towards the end of the regular season. I had my suit on all day long, whether it was conscious, subconscious, I don't know. Then my wife can attest. I got done with work and I usually switch into gym clothes and like get comfortable. Like that's
Yeah.
just as soon as I can get out of a suit, I do. Like I don't like wearing them.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason that day, I kept it on and we went to lunch. My wife, and it was the first day of the off season for me. And just for whatever reason, I just kept my suit on, had it on. I look on my phone and sure enough, text message, coach is retiring. I was like, what? He
Yeah.
just interviewed a coach. Like I just heard 10 minutes ago, he's interviewing a coach. What are you talking about? Sure enough, I'm like, is this real? Double check, refresh, Twitter, refresh, all that. And then sure enough, go home. I'm on the air within 15 minutes. Good news
Yeah.
is I was already suited and booted, like ready to go. But it was weird. I don't know if like God told me something. Hey, be ready
Yeah.
for today. It's going to be crazy, but you need to keep your suit on and be ready to roll.
So in 2010, Nick Saban was the highest paid college football coach. But now that salary just, 14 years later wouldn't even crack the top 25. Like, how much do you think that the business of college football for everybody else is actually impacting how the players see it when they see everybody else making millions and they're saying, oh wait, hold up, maybe I need to try to look out for me when I can't depend on the coach that recruited me to stay here and he's making $5-6 million.
The players have pretty nice flexibility nowadays, to be honest
Yeah.
with you, compared to what we had. Like yeah, we couldn't even get 3 meals a day. Like
Yeah.
I mean, so I think if we would just remove the secrecy surrounding it and just hey, this guy's going to Ohio State, he's getting this. This guy's going to Georgia, he's getting this. This guy's
Yep.
going to Bama, he's getting this. This guy's going to Oregon, he's getting this. Like that, I think would maybe it would calm things down a bit because there wouldn't be bad deals that are being done and guys that are being misled. So that's my biggest fear from a player standpoint is that guys are getting misled and they're getting bad advice.
And the
Yeah, and
secrecy leads to dark alley deals that
totally.
don't get held up.
That scares the heck out of me. I mean, and if you've already transferred once, you sign a bad deal, you don't get the money that you're promised. you can't transfer again. I mean, you're locked in until you graduate. So there are things that I think we could do even more to protect the players. I don't know if the players want that out as well. Like they don't want, in the event in which you are making $1 million as a starting quarterback or whatever school, doesn't really matter, and
Yeah,
you play poorly, you're going to get crushed even more
that's
so
a
than you
fact.
did back in the day. Like we got killed and we gained zero. It's a tricky deal. I don't have all the solutions to it at all. I would adjust the calendar first and foremost. I would move all the transfer portal movement into May so that we're not making emotional decisions at the end of the season. So like that's what I'd be, my first order of business would be to adjust when the portal would open and how the portal was used.
Now we're headed to the 12-team playoff, Greg, and it feels like to me that this is the best time for it because even though that there are still, great teams, it feels like that there's less depth on those teams, so there is going to be more parity. Do you think the expansion is better at this point in time, or do you think that we still should be at 4?
I'll start by saying I don't think there's anything wrong with 4. Our goal with the college football playoff is to crown a worthy champion.
Yep.
And even when we had a 2-team playoff in the BCS, like we did that. I think we've crowned a worthy champion forever. So was a
Yeah.
12-team playoff necessary? I don't think it's necessary, but I do think it's going to open up possibilities for teams that would never have made a 4-team playoff or that the stars would have to align for them to make the playoff. I like the G5 is probably, at least for the first 2 years, the G5 is going to have a representative every year. I don't know if that's going to continue. I like that if you win your conference, you get in at the moment. I think that makes sense. Then you have the wild card teams. That's interesting to me because that will be debated. So I think there's a lot of positives that come with the 12-team playoff. I don't think the sport was broken personally. I think it's an imperfect system, but I don't think the 12-team playoff is any less imperfect. Team 13, team 14, team 15 are going to be really ticked off because they feel like they should be in.
Brock Purdy's in the Super Bowl, 7th round pick. You were a 7th round pick. And you know what it's like to go in, because I was a 4th round guy, to be at the bottom of the roster trying to work your way up. What do you see when you see a guy like Brock Purdy, who was Mr. Irrelevant, and you were a 7th round pick, to be able to come in and play with the confidence and leadership that he's been able to do?
Well, I mean, he stepped into a really good situation, right? I think a lot of it, when you are underdrafted at those guys, it just further shows talent is great and it's super, super helpful. But it's really more about what's around you. That's really going to determine
Yeah.
whether or not you're super successful in the NFL.
What was your biggest leap of faith in your life?
Whew, that's a great question. It would have definitely been in 2014. I was under contract with the Cincinnati Bengals. My career at that point, I'd gotten some playing time in 2012. Didn't do anything of significance, but had gotten and started to kind of get a little bit more comfortable in the NFL. My goal when I got drafted was like, get your pension, be
Yeah.
done. Like, we're good. That was your goal. And then we got that. I was like, all right, this is great. I can keep going. Like, this is going to be awesome. I get a call from ESPN, and ESPN was getting ready to launch the SEC network. And at that time, I wasn't sure, a conference network. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do people watch that? I don't know. Part of me just had that apprehension. I was just nervous. I was like, man, to walk away from the NFL and walk
Yeah.
away from chance to make a couple more rosters. Like, I don't know, man. That seems like that's a leap. So I can keep pursuing my dream of becoming an NFL quarterback, or I can say, you know what, this is just not in the cards. And I can go set myself up at the ground floor of what could be a very successful operation at the SEC network. And that would be my career for the next 30 years, hopefully. That was a big leap of faith for me. And now it's so obvious, but at the time it was very difficult.
Hindsight is 2020. You've traveled to a lot of college cities. Best college city and best place to eat.
The best college town to me is Oxford, Mississippi. It's cool to see the college towns that you hear so much about. Like, I really like Lawrence, Kansas. Doing a game at Appalachian State. Miami played at Appalachian State. We did that game. It was like 2016. It was wild,
Yeah.
man. It was insane. So there's a lot of really cool places that have great tradition. I think they're all cool just kind of for their own reasons. But it's really special to know just how everyone's got their little traditions and stuff. And it's just cool to kind of be able to embrace that culture for a day when you're there calling a game.
And he's Greg McElroy. Thanks for coming on, Greg. And we'll have him back in just a second for Wrighster or Wrong.
So today we're at Patxis Pizza. And listen, the pizza's actually super good around this joint. And we're going to try their Tre Porcellini pizza because it's supposed to be delicioso. And so it's got sausage, it's got salami, it's got pepperoni. And this sauce is supposed to be fire, like some fire pizza sauce. So we're gonna see what they're talking about. Let's see how that cheese pool go. Okay, sliding off that joint. All right, let's see what we talking about. Ooh, yeah, bro, loves good pizza. Ooh, crunchy crust. Got the little fold there. Now we're gonna see what we're talking about. All right, first thing I noticed is the crunch on the crust, man. The crunch on the crust is official. The pepperoni and the salami slapping, and the sausage. Because I'm a big fan of like not them big sausage balls, but when you get to like the sausage crumbles that they actually cook on top of the pizza, just hits it all new. So, I mean, this is a fantastic pizza. Like, I'm not even getting ready to lie. So, if you have a chance, don't just get just the regular pepperoni. Try the Tre Porcellini because this joint is slapping, bro. I can't wait to finish more of this one. I'm gonna give this pizza, good 8.5 out of 10, bro. It's fire. Fire.
And now we're back with Greg McElroy for Wrighster or Wrong. So first thing, Greg McElroy, Chase Daniel, and Riley Dodge were all on the same high school team. Is that the best quarterback high school room of all time?
It's pretty sporty. Yeah, I mean, I'd say Wrighster. I don't know, to have two NFL quarterbacks in a quarterback room in high school is pretty wild. I'm sure there's one that's comparable, especially now that, IMGs of the world and there's some high school recruiting and stuff. Maybe that's not as uncommon, but that would have been a tough one to beat for sure.
Your co-host on McElroy and Kublik is a former center, so he's a big guy, but at heart, he's a big old teddy bear.
I'd say wrong on that one. Cole is a killer. He does have those, those offensive line teddy bear qualities for sure, but he's hardcore, man. He's really hardcore. Now what's funny is when you see him with his daughter, he's the teddy bear. When you see him with his sons, he's the killer. So he can turn it on and off, but Cole's one of my best buddies. He's awesome. And I'm really, really fortunate to be able to work with him 15 hours a week.
Final one for you. Wrighster or Wrong, the best college football coaching move of this year was Dan Lanning staying at Oregon, Lance Leopold staying at Kansas, and Kleiman staying at Kansas State.
Probably wrong because Lanning can't go anywhere because he's too expensive. So that's a good move for Oregon to have all the different loopholes of his contract that only increases the buyout to some exorbitant amount of money. He's a great coach, so I think he's going to do phenomenal there and continue to do phenomenal there. He's already done a great job up to this point. Lance Leipold, I think, has done a great job at Kansas, and Chris Kleiman has done an amazing job at Kansas State. But I don't know how real the interest was at Washington or Texas A&M or some of the other places they were rumored to be maybe considered by. So I'm going to say wrong because I don't know how likely it was that they were going to get one of those jobs.
Well, he is Greg McElroy. Greg, thanks for coming on the show today.
You got it, man. Thanks for having me.
Isn't it amazing how quickly a player or a team that America fell in love with can turn hated so quickly, like the Kansas City Chiefs? Because people used to think it was fun to watch a guy who draft experts said was overrated at the 10th overall pick go out there and win. It was a great story until it keeps happening over and over again. And the hate has gotten so bad with Kansas City that there are people out there who hate America's sweetheart, Taylor Swift, just because she's with them. And that's what an incredible championship weekend in the NFL gave us. We had Patrick Mahomes taking down MVP Lamar Jackson to make his not one, not two, not three, but fourth Super Bowl appearance at age 28. And we had a controversy over Dan Campbell repeatedly not taking the points as the Lions attempted to hang on to their massive first half lead against the 49ers. Now, it didn't work out for the Lions, but I don't hate Dan Campbell for being aggressive because that's how the Lions got there. They were aggressive all season. Don't get in a big moment and then play scared. Do what you doing, man. See, Dan Lanning did the same thing. So now we have a rematch of the 2020 Super Bowl. But Brock Purdy is at the helm of San Francisco instead of Jimmy Garoppolo. And more on Mr. Irrelevant later on in the show. But first, we need to talk about the necessary heel turn that the Kansas City Chiefs have made to try to stay on top of the NFL mountain. Just like Bret Hart turning heel in WrestleMania 13 that made Steve Austin become a babyface, it was best for everybody. The Chiefs are making an attempt to become the type of dynasty that the league has never seen before. 3 consecutive Super Bowl wins is a real possibility if they beat San Francisco. And you don't get where nobody has ever been by being nice guys. And I'm talking about the front office on down to Patrick Mahomes himself, who we saw bickering with Ravens kicker Justin Tucker in pregame warmups, and that was even before Travis Kelce came over and threw his balls and his helmet out of the way. I love that. Inject that into my veins because it's all love after the game. But before, we ain't friends. Get the hell out of my space, opera boy. The men are working. Respectfully. Actually, before the game, not even respectfully. And humility isn't about making yourself small. It's about knowing your place in the world while refusing to rest on your laurels. Now, the Chiefs believe that their place is at the top of the AFC, and until somebody comes along and proves them wrong, they are. And humility is the Chiefs working to get better, but still having the confidence in the idea that they're better than your team. And they are. Even though they haven't been able to afford keeping stars like Tyrann Mathieu, Tyreek Hill, Frank Clark, Orlando Brown, or Juju Smith-Schuster, even though they lost their offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, even though all their draft picks are late in the rounds, even though Rashee Rice, a rookie second rounder, was their only consistent wide receiver this year, even though Pro Bowl guard Joe Thuney and their starting linebacker Willie Gay missed the AFC Championship, even though the Giants flipped their third rounder that they got from the Chiefs in the Kadarius Toney trade for Darren Waller, who had twice as many catches as Toney this year, they're still better than you. And as a side note, Kadarius Toney, come on, bruh. The Chiefs are doing you a favor by telling people that you're an injury scratch. Don't get on social media and tell the world that you're not actually playing because you stink right now. Humility is for you. Recognize that they don't need you. So take the time, get yourself together, and don't make them boys tell you to stay off the team plane to Las Vegas. Even the Chiefs defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, is dialed in, and the players are in his scheme too. They're not afraid of the freak athlete quarterbacks, the gunslingers, the workhorse running backs, the elite wide receivers. They face their worst nightmare, the marriage of Patrick Mahomes' talent and Andy Reid's play calling in practice every single day. And they're not afraid of your boogeyman, but your team's defense is absolutely afraid of theirs. And the Chiefs, they know this. It's why the comments that they've fallen off get buried in the same graveyard as your AFC team's playoff hopes. At this point, the Chiefs aren't a fun story anymore. Not after winning on the road in Buffalo and Baltimore. If they were ever even Anakin Skywalker, well, now they're in full Darth Vader mode. They're the executioner and the Undertaker. People love you until they can't stop you. Ask the Golden State Warriors, or the 90s Chicago Bulls, or Nick Saban, or Tom Brady. Do you know how the Dallas Cowboys became the most hated team in America, even though they spent the last 2.5 decades being irrelevant on the football field in terms of championships? It's because they won a lot and they did it in a short amount of time. And you have to be built completely different to see the same people that cheered your ascension start to prey on your downfall and not be wounded at all by it. But the Chiefs don't care whether you're on the bandwagon or in front of it. This train is moving forward no matter what. Don't believe me? Just ask Travis Kelce.
I don't give a damn if they respect us or not.
And now we're joined by Jen G. You can find her on Instagram as Vegas Starfish. And you can go to her website, vegasstarfish.com. And if you are looking for, whether it's the Super Bowl, you're out in Vegas, this is the woman that you need to follow. When people come in for the Super Bowl, how far in advance do they start need to making their dinner reservations, show tickets, and everything else?
People started the minute that they were allowed to, and that varies from property to property and restaurant to restaurant. I always advise people to plan 90 days out, but for an event like the Super Bowl, you need to plan 6 months to a year in advance.
Oh, sheesh. So for those people that are last minute that waited to see if their team was going to get into the Super Bowl, what are some of the things that they want to, some of the events that they want to hit up that the NFL is doing, or places that they need to see if they haven't frequented Vegas?
There will be activations all over the strip because every resort is going to try to cash in on this opportunity to lure in new potential future visitors. And so because of that, there will be pop-up activations, opportunities to see. I know I've been invited to 2 or 3 things where like Raiders players and players from different teams will be signing autographs. I would say check with the hotel that you're staying with, check social media accounts, because a lot of the stuff that's going on, we will get information about it ahead of time. Instagram is probably the most valuable resource because everyone posts the activations in their stories. I know I'm posting one later today, like Guy Fieri is doing a massive tailgating party here. Sports Illustrated has a big party. Maxim has a party coming up. You don't even need to go to the game to come here to celebrate the Super Bowl. There's going to be stuff going on everywhere. Oh, and there's a brand new, like, massive sports bar right outside the stadium called Whiskey. It's WHSKY. And they're doing a huge Super Bowl, like, food and drink party. And it's going to be awesome.
Can you give us your top couple of restaurants to go to on a budget, and then your top if there is no budget?
I think that for people on a budget, and even people who are not on a budget and are big foodies, the biggest mistake that you can make is to come here and only eat at the resorts. We have an area just off strip called Chinatown. I think every major city has a Chinatown, but ours is different because rent was really inexpensive there for a long time. So a lot of the chefs would leave the resorts on the strip and they would go open up their own restaurants inexpensively in Chinatown, just 2 miles away. And so you've got French, you've got Spanish, you've got Thai, Chinese, you've got anything that you can imagine. There's a tiki bar over there that's amazing. Anything you can imagine is in Chinatown. And that's where you're going to really find like gems. And then the Arts District too. The Arts District is really up and coming. I still believe that the best brunch in Vegas is at the Pepper Club, and it's only been open about 1.5 years, but it's affordable. You can go eat for less than $50 and have bottomless drinks. So I would say Esther's Kitchen, Pepper Club for brunch. In Chinatown, Sparrow and Wolf is very popular. La Mai Thai, Fuku Burger is exceptional. So many great things over there. And then if money is no object, you should do the big resorts and you should just do it big. Golden Steer is an excellent steakhouse, classic Vegas, formerly like Mafia run. Fountain Blue just opened up. They have a ton. Poppy Steak is wildly popular. If you haven't been there yet, you've got to go. Cosmopolitan has Scarpetta and Wynn. Anything at Wynn. You know what? There's too many to narrow it down. I would say just go to Wynn and eat everything at Wynn.
Hey, Wynn got good food at it.
They do, yeah.
When people are coming out for the Super Bowl, where are some of those like hidden gems that you can just go have a good time, that even if it's last minute, maybe you can get in and have some drinks, kind of hang out with your friends who are there to just celebrate whether you're going to the game or not?
So the Super Bowl is cool in that it doesn't require a resort to be licensed to show it. It'll be on every TV in the entire city, and every resort has a sports book or a sports viewing area of some type. You can walk through any resort on the strip and people will be screaming, they'll be selling snacks. It'll be so much fun. So you don't need to pay to go to a Super Bowl party per se. I did get an email this morning that says that there is a Chiefs bar, like themed to the Kansas City Chiefs, at Blue Diamond and Decatur. I haven't checked it out yet, but they've been a Chiefs bar for years. So this is going to be their moment. Okay. And that might be fun to go down and check out. As far as gyms, the whiskey place that just opened up is going to be really cool. There's a spot in Mandalay called Flanker that's sports themed. It's going to be awesome. It is expensive. I think their tickets are like up to $500 now because they are demand priced. Yeah. But anywhere, I mean, Circa is like kind of the hub downtown for sports. They say they have the biggest sports book in the world. I think Westgate's actually like 2 square feet bigger, but I'll let them sort that out. But Circa is going to be a wild party. You don't have to. I mean, I do recommend making a plan in advance so that you're guaranteed to have the experience you're looking for. But if you're flexible, show up and you'll find a place.
Listen, and if not, they need to hit you up. So you guys go over to VegasStarfish.com. She is Jen G. Jen, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Last up today, I want to talk about Brock Purdy because it's no secret that I don't exactly love the Brock Purdy hype because I've posted about it on my channel before. But to everybody that commented without actually watching the video, I'm not a Brock Purdy hater. I'm a unrealistic hype hater because in that video, I called Brock Purdy the perfect player for the perfect system with the perfect weapons. And my fear was that we were only building him up in the media to turn around and tear him down. But as the year went on, my doubts about Purdy grew. 4 times this year in games that Brock Purdy started, the opposing team jumped out to an early lead, and Purdy went 0-4 in those games and threw 9 picks trying to get San Francisco back in it. He didn't even have a single solitary fourth quarter comeback or game-winning drive all year. Now, mostly they were putting teams away early, and to be fair to Purdy, he was part of building those leads. But in the playoffs, they've been a revelation. He's come back twice. He's made plays in the clutch. He's made plays with his legs, made the hard throws on the run, everything that you could ask. But did he have some good fortune on that Ayuk deep ball? Bruh, understatement. But every quarterback has balls bounced their way and the other team's way. It usually evens out over the course of a career, but all you got to do is get it hot in the playoffs. But I want to close today with this, that the narrative is going to be Brock Purdy versus Patrick Mahomes. It's David versus Goliath. 2 things about that. Anybody calling Brock Purdy the massive underdog after they spent all season calling him a star is undercutting their own point. He either belongs or he doesn't. And 2, every single time we use the David versus Goliath in sports, we're forgetting that the point of the story was that God was on David's side. And Goliath wasn't winning that one, buddy. Goliath was the David of the David and Goliath story because he was up against God. But back to the Purdy versus Mahomes. If Brock Purdy belongs on this stage, it'll look like he belongs. It's really as simple as that. He's got the swagger of Steve Rogers. He's got all the tools any quarterback actually needs, and his teammates have his back. He's got the best front 7 in football on the other side trying to stop Patrick Mahomes. There are no excuses for Brock Purdy here. Not his youth, not inexperience, not size, not arm strength. Because at this level, with 100 million people watching, you either have it or you don't. And we know for sure that Patrick Mahomes has it. How about Brock? And that's the Unafraid Show. Make sure that you guys like, subscribe, get notifications, and tell a friend so we can continue growing this joint around here. And next week, our guest, the man himself, that dude, Marcellus Wiley. Catch you next week.